guys, Cameron for Better Call Saul, Season 2, Episode 7, Inflatable, and I know this episode I am a week behind on. I meant to review it last week, I just never got the chance to, so I figured I will review Better Call Saul before the new episode tonight, because that is the only thing that is new tonight, and then tomorrow I'll do the same with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and then Friday I'll do the same thing with the originals. That's probably just what I'm going to do. Nevertheless, though, this was another great episode. Really looking forward to this episode. This was another great episode. I definitely really enjoyed it. And definitely kind of, ended some plot lines that looked like they were going in some crazy directions and actually made things a lot simpler, which I really liked. But let's just get into this episode. Also, I think it's the first episode in a while where there wasn't a lot going on with Mike. Like, there is stuff going on with Mike, but we mainly focused on Jimmy and Kim, which I definitely really loved, starting with the flashback in this episode, which was very important. I like the way that this was done, and I like the way that Better Call Saul uses flashbacks to tell an overall story, because a lot of shows will have flashbacks to show us important things, but Better Call Saul, they kind of use the flashback to tell what the story is going to be and why things are the way they are in the episode. Kind of like, I'd say, a precursor to what we're really getting into. Here's like a sample of what this episode's going to be like, but let's just get into it. We start off in 1973. We see a young Jimmy's working in his dad's neighborhood grocery store, sneaking a peek at a Playboy magazine. Well, he's supposed to be sweeping the floors, but Jimmy's dad is easily fooled, and we'll learn basically, we see Jimmy knows a grifter when he sees one, because he tells this story about a man comes in peddling a sob story about a broken down car and an urgent need to get medicine to a sick kid, and Jimmy knows a grifter who, when he sees one, and he takes his father aside to let him know he's being hustled, and that this man isn't actually, there is no child, he just wants money, and that's all that's going on. Basically, in fact, Jimmy says that, but his father is known throughout their town as an easy mark. He doesn't believe it. He thinks that Jimmy is just, being easily fooled. And when the scam artist asks for $5 to get home to his sick boy, Mr. McGill takes $10 bill out of the cash register, hands it over. When he goes back to the back of the store to look for yet another way to help this guy, Jimmy goes to the register. Then the scammer knows Jimmy's on him. He wants 2 boxes of Cool cigarettes, $8, and Jimmy tells him he wants the cash first. And Grifty says that there are wolves and sheep in this world, kid. Figure out which one you're gonna be. And Jimmy puts the $8 in the till as Grifty leaves. But when Mr. McGill comes out of the back with a box of spark plugs and rushes out the door to try to help the stranger even further, Jimmy takes the $8 out of the register. He puts it in his pockets, and basically, Chuck was right when he told him that story about Jimmy pilfering money from their dad's shop. If you remember, he told her that story. But the thing is that interesting is you have to wonder if Chuck factored in how much money his dad must have allowed to be scammed away from his bottom line throughout the years of his store ownership. Because from that scene, we know a lot. We know that we know his father is he's very gullible. He believes a lot of shit, and a lot of his money was taken from him clearly from the register, unfairly, but Mr. McGill believed into these people's lies, and Jimmy kind of helped him with that. And we also know that Jimmy is not one to, listen to bullshit. He knows when someone's lying. He knows when someone is trying to scam him, and I think that's why Jimmy's so good at conning, because as we know, he has been a con man with Kim. That's something that they are when they're Giselle and whatever his name is, I can't think of right now, but when they're those characters, that's why they're so good at conning, and you definitely see that here. I thought that was definitely well done, and definitely a very good flashback. I really enjoyed that. So, just like episode 7 last year, we actually start off the present with Jimmy trying to help out Mike with the situation, because Jimmy meets Mike at the DA's office. Jimmy speaks on Mike's behalf, says his client wants to amend his statement to the police, and the gun he claimed was Tuco Salmonica's when Tuco attacked him was not Tuco's. It's not. Jimmy says, it's not Mike's either, though, which is interesting, but it isn't Tuco's. And basically, Jimmy said that maybe a bird dropped it from its beak, which only discussed the DA and ADA more, and he's basically trying to make everyone look innocent, and basically, they want to put away Tuco for a long time, but you can tell that Jimmy's not really taking this seriously. He's just trying to defend Mike and everything, but he's not really taking this as seriously as he should, because, you can tell the DA they want to put Tuco in jail, because obviously he's been this criminal, he's done all these things, and they want to get rid of him, but they want to know why Mike is changing up his story at this point. Is he being bribed or bullied? And Mike's not saying anything. We don't know why, and he looks unhappy in that he's helping Tuco hit the streets again sooner than he originally planned, and the pleasure on Mike only multiplies basically because the pressure on Mike only multiplies because Stacy's found the perfect house for her and Kaylee, and it's a big house with a big backyard and a nice neighborhood. And Mike's not happy with this at all because he's going to make the financing happen, whatever the cost, and that isn't going to come courtesy of his parking attendant gig. It's going to take him a lot more money to get in this house because remember he got them like that condo, but obviously they can't stay there because Tio's goons, went after, almost, looked at Kaylee and almost tried to like kill her. So obviously, Mike's really worried. So he drives to a secluded spot across from Il Grigo Grenadar, the ice cream joint where Tio and his crew conduct business, and scoops out the place. Again, it doesn't seem like a good time. This happen basically, and we don't really know what's going to happen there. That's pretty much everything that happens with Mike in this episode. Like I said, Mike doesn't have a lot of substantial stuff. There's a lot of setup, and you can tell that he basically is scooping out the place where Tio and his crew is going to be. You can tell we're setting up to a really interesting showdown between these two. We don't exactly know where this is going, but we'll have to see. I mean, we know that Tio, aka Hector, ends up in a wheelchair at some point, and because of Hector ending up in this wheelchair, you have to think that there has to be a way. So maybe Mike is the one that makes him end up in that. I mean, I definitely see a fight going on here. This is not going to be something real simple. These two are going to fight. I definitely see it getting really crazy. But Mike's now in a really bad situation because now, once again, he has to try to get money for Stacey and Kaylee to get into this house, which, he tried to get them as much money as he could, but is he going to be as successful this time? We'll have to see. And will he be able to be proven innocent? Because it's clear they want to put Tio away. But if they keep, if Jimmy keeps up this lie that neither of them had the gun, they could start looking at Mike. They could start looking at Mike, thinking he's responsible. And of course, no one really knows the true story that Mike was sent to kill Tuco. He didn't kill Tuco, and basically, it was Nacho that wanted to do it. And I don't know if anyone's going to suspect Nacho, but we know that Nacho really, again, like I've said many times, is the one responsible for all this, because Nacho was the one that told Mike to do all this. That's how he got into this whole situation. That's why this is happening to him. So, very interesting stuff, but like I said, this wasn't really Mike's episode. This was definitely more Jimmy's episode than it was Mike's episode, because the rest of the episode basically focused on Jimmy and Kim, and it was very well done. It was also funny. Like, this episode was a lot of fun, and I definitely enjoyed that, and we haven't had a lot of fun episodes this season, because it's been a very dark season, but this episode, like I said, was actually very funny, because Jimmy calls Kim, finds out she isn't going to officially quit HHM until she has an offer letter from Schweikart and Coakley, because as we know, she now has this position, but she wants to make sure that she has a letter so she can quit, and she's excited about the potential, though, as she thinks that they're going to make a fairly generous offer, plus pay off the $15,000 she still owes HHM for law school, and with that, Jimmy's off to Davison, Maine, where he asks Omar to draft his resignation letter, and his resignation letter, and Omar's surprised, and Jimmy wants to quit, especially when it means giving up the perks, which is very interesting. Jimmy basically does whatever he can in this episode to either quit or get fired, and yeah, he likes the car and the apartment, but Jimmy says, but Omar points out he'll have to give the bonus back too, and Jimmy says that they already gave him the check, but Omar points out something Jimmy must have skipped in his contract. If he quits, he has to pay back the bonus, and unsurprisingly, Jimmy changed his mind, asked Omar to keep his lips zipped about any talk of resignation, and obviously he doesn't want to have to pay back the bonus because he doesn't, I don't think, have the money for it. So obviously, that's a problem, but Jimmy then gets this idea, because obviously he's going to make sure things go his way. He's going to make sure that he's able to get out of this business, and again, it's a good job, it's just not for Jimmy. It's not what Jimmy wants to do. And Jimmy then gets this idea when he's driving. He spots one of those giant inflatable... Now, this I love, because if you remember, in the intro of the show, we've seen part in the intro where there's this big inflatable tube man, and finally in this episode that connects to something, because I've heard everyone say that the intro is clues to what's to come, and very much so in this scene, because we finally see that tube man. He goes into shopping spree, fills his closet with loads of new threads, bright pink, blue, yellow, and emerald green shirts, multicolored pattern ties, suits in colors like salmon. He mixes and matches the pieces, surprise everyone at D&M with Davison, Maine, with his new look, as well as his new and loud juicer in the office kitchen, and he's definitely starting to get that Saul look. Not the Saul persona, but definitely the Saul look, and obviously everyone's surprised at how confident he looks. He also develops a habit in the office bathroom that pushes Cliff to have a public conversation he never thought that he would have in his professional career. And basically, Jimmy, out of water conservation concern, has stopped flushing even when he goes, even when he goes number two, which is obviously disgusting. And you can just tell Jimmy is doing whatever he can to get fired. He's ruining, he's changing his attire. He's not flushing. I mean, it's a really interesting scene, but I like that we play this for last. I mean, obviously, it's sad what Jimmy's doing, but you understand why he's trying to get himself fired. This job, like I've said, is just not for him. So Cliff tells him they have low flow toilets, encourages him to go ahead, flush it down, and I love when he's like, just flush that brown down. I mean, that whole scene was hilarious. I love the way that was done, because Jimmy knows he's doing wrong, but Jimmy then buys a set of bagpipes, begins playing them in the office, and this finally gets Cliff to fire him, and Cliff knows what Jimmy was up to, though. He knew that he knew that Jimmy wanted to get fired, and he basically just provokes Cliff to fire him to save the bonus, and he says the optical migraine you call a business suit was also particularly irksome to Cliff, and Cliff's giving in, but wants to know why Jimmy didn't even give the job a chance, because he really didn't. I mean, he kind of was just there for a couple weeks and was just like, fucking him out. But they really tried to make it work for him. They tried to make it the best it could possibly be. Remember, Cliff gave him a warning. He didn't he didn't fire him or anything. He just said, this happens again and you're going to be fired. So they've tried to make things as laxed as possible, but it's just clearly not what Jimmy wants, and it's not what he thought this job would be, and that's why he's not enjoying it, because it's not what specifically Jimmy wants, and that's really what's not working for him. So basically, Jimmy said, and I like what Jimmy says here, that he says, I tried to make it work. He really did. And he says he's just a square peg. He then tells Cliff he'll write him a check for the 7,000 Coca-Bolo desk the firm brought for his office. And Jimmy then says that for what it's worth, he thinks he's a good guy. And it's a good scene because he knows that Cliff tried to help him. He knows that Cliff deep down, he wanted to help him, but he just couldn't. Jimmy didn't like his office. Jimmy didn't like what he was doing. And even though Cliff wanted to help him, he wasn't going to do it. And Cliff even says that he's an asshole, and yeah, Jimmy kind of is. I mean, he came across that way. Do I think Jimmy's an asshole necessarily? No, but like I've said before, he doesn't think things through. He only tried to make it, for his benefit rather than anyone else's benefit. He cared about what he wanted rather than what anyone else wanted, and that's really what annoyed everyone, is the fact that they tried countless times to help him. He didn't feel satisfied. He wasn't happy about it. He didn't say anything. He tried to get himself fired, and he did, but basically, that's what happened there. So he is now fired from Davis and Maine, and this is why Jimmy wanted to hang on to that bonus cash so badly. He's got a counter offer for Kim, we find out. That's why he wanted to hang on to the boner cash, which is interesting, and this really provides a new, something new in Kim and Jimmy's relationship, because I've thought from the beginning of the season, oh, they're done. There's no way they're going to make it. This episode, I don't know. After this, maybe they will make it. Maybe they will be able to go into this business together, because basically, Jimmy has another offer for her. Instead of quitting HMM to go work for Schweikart's, why not become partners with him? That they should work together. And in a firm they'll call Wexler McGill. He'll pay off her law school loans, and he's even mocked up a very cool business card and the logo for them. And Kim appears to actually consider, like, she's not upset about this. And you can see for the first time in a while, they are on equal agreement. I mean, the whole season they've really not been on equal agreement. Kim hasn't really trusted him, but this is a good thing to do. They can work things out. This can fix their relationship. They'll get closer. They won't hide anything from each other. Anything that Jimmy does, Kim knows what he'll be doing, but basically has to ask Jimmy a question first, which is what kind of lawyer he's going to be. And I love that line, because, she says, are you going to play by the rules, or are you going to do your own thing? Because she wants him to play by the rules. She doesn't want him to do his own thing, because that's what he's doing. Jimmy does what's best for him. And, he also kind of glosses over, things that are important. He kind of tells stories, without making the client the victim. He makes the client always feel like they're not guilty when they maybe are guilty. And he starts to tell her he's going to play it straight, dot every I, cross every T. But then he looks down at Marco's ring on his hand and tells her he's going to be very colorful. Every time he tries to do things the way other people want him to, it blows up in his face. And he says he nearly derailed his career, he adds, and he's definitely going to do things his way, because he knows deep down he's not going to play by the rules. He's going to do what he wants, because that just is how it works for him. It's been working for him all this time. He's just going to continue continue doing that. And yeah, that would make sense. I mean, Jimmy would just keep doing that. And Kim hears that. She tells him that they already did. She almost says that they're already dating. And she almost says that. But why does he need her for this? Which is interesting. And he says that he doesn't need her. He wants her. And Kim says again, "You've got me. You just not as a law partner." So she's wondering, we're dating. Why? What are you trying to get at this? Why do we need to work together? And Jimmy rarely looks, we see that he's visibly shaken. He's really disappointed in Kim's decision because he really thought they could make this work. She's happily dating him, but she doesn't want to partner with him in business, which this I like because we see that Kim is not upset with Jimmy. She just doesn't agree with the way he treats Law. Law, her job and her occupation is very important to her, and she doesn't want Jimmy to screw her over, and she doesn't believe in the way Jimmy does things. She's not someone that's just going to gloss over things. She's not going to do things her own way. She's going to do something the way it needs to be done, and that's just how it is, and she's not going to listen to what Jimmy tells her to do. She's going to do what she feels she needs to do, and I like seeing that, but I do like that they're not exactly on equal agreement right now. It makes sense where they're not on equal agreement. They have very different ways of thinking of things, and we have to wonder, I mean, does she not trust him? Is it a judgment of him? Something she throughout the relationship hasn't done? And, there are a lot of questions, definitely. Why does she not want to work with him? I think it's just simply because they have two different ways of working at law. Kim's someone that will follow the rules, will do everything that she's told, while Jimmy will do things his own way because that's the way he rolls, and that's the way things work for him, and that's why he's so good when he becomes Saul, because he's so good at doing what he wants for his own good. And basically, she doesn't want to be part of his colorful attitude anymore. So now that he's out of Davis and Maine, Jimmy's back in his Suzuki esteem, living in the nail salon back room with his Coco Bloco desk and new wardrobe of bright suits, and that's where Kim finds him. And after wowing Schweikart and his partners in her job interview, she tells Jimmy she's going to turn down the position. She's going to turn the new position down and do what he suggested, start her own firm. And she has a pitch for him. Instead of being Wexler McGill, they become Wexler and McGill separate firms, but under one roof. And honestly, I think this is a very good idea because it's what Jimmy wanted. It's kind of what she wants as well. And they won't, this won't fracture the relationship because while they will clash, they're not going to be in the same firm. They're sharing the cost of operating businesses. She's excited about the idea, showing Jimmy how she tore his business card in half to make two solo practitioners together. Basically, that's what they're going to do. There'll be a barrier kind of just separating them from each other. And basically, he tells her that this isn't what he had in mind. He's not as excited about her idea as she is, and he says that he doesn't know what to say. And basically, she just tells him, say yes, just say yes, because this is what he wanted. But you don't know if Jimmy's going to say yes, and that's the way we end this episode. I like the way we ended here, because you don't know, really, if Jimmy agrees to what Kim wants him to do. I mean, clearly, this is a good idea, definitely. I'm not denying this is a very good idea that Kim's come up with, and I absolutely think that Jimmy should take it, because it's clearly what he wanted, just not in the exact way that he wanted it. And he doesn't really seem happy about it. He really wanted to work with Kim, and he wants things, because Jimmy thinks of, futures that just aren't going to come true. I think he thinks of, having this life with Kim where they work together and they go into this business and they're known as this couple who works here and everything. And that's just not who they are. Kim is completely fine with dating him. She likes Jimmy. She thinks he's a good guy. She definitely sees the potential in him, but she doesn't follow his rules. She's going to do what needs to be done when it comes to law, while he's going to do his own thing, and she wouldn't agree with that. And it would make sense why these two can't work together. They just can't work together. They can be together, but they just can't work together, and you definitely see that. And it really seems like Jimmy doesn't like this. He wants to work together. He wants to have some sort of partnership with her, and it's not exactly what he wants, but in many ways it is. And I hope that he says yes. We'll have to see what happens there. Definitely, that's going to be very interesting. But Kim, obviously, she doesn't want to go to Schweikart, we see. She doesn't want to go to Schweikart. So what is she really going to do? I kind of see Kim starting her own business without Jimmy. We'll have to see what happens there, because obviously Jimmy doesn't want to, Jimmy does not want to take this offer, we can see. I mean, we don't know if he's going to take his offer. Maybe that he will, maybe he won't, maybe he'll do his own thing. We don't really know what's going to happen there, but seems like he's only happy in the nail salon, which we know from the last episode, he kind of is only happy there. That's kind of where his happy place is. That's where he feels most suited, and when he's not there, he's kind of upset, and you definitely do see that, and I like the way that was done as well. Jimmy's now fired from Davis and Maine, which I'm not surprised about. I knew that was going to happen. What's going to happen with that, we'll have to see. Definitely that's going to be very interesting, but I really hope that Jimmy just takes her advice, because, she really is trying to do the best thing for both of them, and I do think her advice isn't bad, definitely. And I thought the way that was very good. And also the beginning of the episode where he talked about the whole wolf and sheep situation, are you wolf or are you sheep? Are you lying? Are you not? It's kind of how Jimmy approaches law. He knows a lot of what he's saying are lies, but it just helps him and it benefits him. He wants to help these clients. He wants to help make them come as guilty as not guilty as possible. That's kind of what's going on with Mike and Hector's story. The problem is this is going to turn into a huge problem, and this could get really bad for Mike because Mike now is in the position where he has to buy Kaylee and Stacey a new house. They want to have the money. They don't have the money. Mike has to somehow get the money. How the hell he's going to do that, I have no idea. He needs to now go to Hector, and basically it seems like they're going to have a fallout, so we're going to see what happens there between Tio and Mike. I don't really know what's going to happen with that. Tuco, they want to put in jail, as we know, but it seems like, Jimmy's making it seem like neither of them had the gun, which isn't true. We know definitely that Tuco did have the gun, but he says that he didn't, and we'll have to see what happens with that. Is Nacho going to interfere? Because Nacho, again, he's the one that really got into this in the first place, so I'm wondering if Nacho's really going to get into this. We'll have to see. But overall, guys, another really solid episode. I'm really enjoying the season overall. Definitely really great stuff. It's going to be sad not to see Cliff. I did like Cliff's character overall. Like I said, he saw a lot of potential in Jimmy. Jimmy just didn't live up to it because, again, he had his own ways of doing things and didn't agree with what Cliff wanted him to do. But overall, guys, I'm glad you guys saw this episode. Really love this episode overall. Amazing stuff, and I will see you guys in my next video, which will be for tonight's episode of Better Call Saul, that being episode 8, and we'll see if Jimmy takes the offer. We'll see what happens between Jimmy and Kim, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.